Hey you! Hey, it's Doug. Welcome back to my channel and another pen video. There's no unboxing today because I actually unboxed this particular pen the other day, last week, when I went out to the mailbox and got my Amber as a Cat 480. I got a couple of pens that day that were just in a little plastic pouch. And one of them I'm going to look at today is the WingSung 3013. This pen's been out for a while. It comes in a little plastic sleeve. It's been out for a while, and I thought, well, it's fairly inexpensive. And it is a vacuum filler. And vacuum fillers are interesting. Here is my PenBBS 456. I adore this pen. This is as close to perfect a pen as I've found. It's like an everyday carry. I can write with it for hours and hours and hours. And in the scheme of things, with inexpensive Chinese fountain pens, this is on the higher end. This ends up being about $35 US. I think it's worth every single penny. And just the other day, I received this. This is a WingSung 699. This is also a vacuum filler, but this one comes in at around $20 US. It is very, very pretty. The big difference between these two pens is that this one is acrylic resin, so it's turned acrylic, and this one is injection molded plastic, nice though it might be. And this one, the WingSung 3013, it sounds like the same company, WingSung 699 and WingSung 3013, but apparently they're completely different companies. Maybe not completely, but they're manufactured in different places, and they manufacture different products. But this vacuum filler comes in around, wait for it, $5 US. So this is injection molded plastic, but we're going to give it a try and see how it rivals these other two vacuum fillers. The same day as I received this pen, I also received this one. This one purported to be, in fact, the auction says it is a PenBBS 494, and it is not even close to being a PenBBS pen. It is a very plasticky pen. It is a piston filler. There we go. And I'm going to take a look at that in combination with some other inexpensive piston fillers. I've got a few of them here. These are from last year. I never reviewed them, but these are the WingSung 3008, and they are piston fillers. And I'm going to do some comparison with these pens because I think they're made by the same company. The parts all fit each other, and they all seem to look very much alike. And I'm also going to compare it to the WingSung 698, which is a piston filler as well. It has a little ink window here. So I'm going to take a look at the inexpensive piston fillers in another video. Put those aside. And today we're going to look at the 3013. Okay, before we continue on looking at the WingSung 3013, I thought I'd do a little bit of pen news here, which I'm excited about. This is Bainey Zhang's Instagram page. She is the seller of PenBBS on Etsy. And on her Instagram page, she posts new finishes, new models, things like this. And just a few days ago, she posted this little video of a new model of PenBBS coming out in December. I'm going to run this video for you. There's no sound to the video, but it shows a spring-loaded piston filler PenBBS model in clear glass. And it looks like that rod is retractable, and it's model 500. Very interesting. And on Jian Long's Instagram page, he is the manufacturer of PenBBS, who distributes to WingSung on Etsy. And he posted, new model is expected to be released in December. And he has some still photos here of this pen. It looks like it has the 480 clip, the 456 clip, and PenBBS around the collar. It has a clear feed, this spring load, and it looks, this spring mechanism looks very close to the TWSBI Go. And here's another photo here that shows the pen, and you can see that the rod is retracted at this point. How this works, I don't know. I'd be fascinated to find out. There's another picture of it. So we can see that it's going to have a pretty standard PenBBS fine nib on it. You can just see it there. So I'm looking forward to that. So in December, I know I'm going to get Christmas early when my PenBBS 500 comes in the mail. I have no idea about pricing of this, but it's something we can speculate about for the next couple of weeks. Let's look at the parts of the pen. It has a metal finial with an attached clip. The clip is relatively flimsy. You could probably bend it, but it seems to be serviceable. And the cap itself, let's take the pen out of it so you can see it better. It has a sort of a diamond pattern in the plastic, which is very lovely. It's sort of has a sparkle to it as you turn it. There's a small Phillips screw at the end that holds the finial on. One of the issues I had with my 3008s is that corroded. So I'm not sure how safe that piece might be. We might have to take this to pieces to find out. The cap comes off in 1, 2, almost 2 rotations, which is good. And there's a little rubber seal right there. And you can actually feel it when you get down to that last turn. You can feel it engage, which might actually mean that these pens should be safe from drying out. They certainly take a lot of ink. The section is clear, but they've got the section inside the section. So the outside of it is clear plastic with the threads attached. But the inside, and there's a nib and feed assembly in there that looks like it's chromed plastic, or it could be metal. Doesn't feel weighty enough to be metal. It's probably chrome plastic. And you can take the section off. There's a little rubber or silicone O-ring right there. And it might be wise to silicone those threads. I don't feel any silicone on there. I tried to get that out of there, and I really wasn't successful, and I didn't want to break it. It has one of those pilot style clear feeds, which makes me wonder why that's chromed or metal. Be interesting to see that whole feed through there with the ink. And of course, inside the barrel, there's your plunger for the vacuum filler. Get that back on there again. So we have a barrel that tapers down towards the end, where there is a chrome ring and then a blind cap. The blind cap opens up, and you see there's a metal apparatus there, a socket that takes this rod, and you pull the rod back again, just like the other vacuum fillers. Stick the pen in the ink, push this down, it creates a negative pressure back here, and then when it widens out, at this point, it pops open and the ink should flow up. I took the 699 apart and I had difficulty getting it back together again correctly. It was just my bad. But I've taken this apart and it comes apart fairly easily. You don't need to put a wrench on it. I just put a little rubber on it. And this whole section here unscrews and you can take the whole thing out. There we go. It just pops out. And that rod slides through this metal section. There's a couple of silicone rings there that seal off the compartment for the vacuum and keep ink out of the back of the pen. And you can see the bottom of the pen here. Try to focus in. This ABS plastic, I'm not sure whether it's ABS or not, it's just injected molded plastic. You can see how rough that is. I think those indentations are there for a purpose. When you put this back again, it only goes in one way. There. It sits in those little indents. And then you can put that little collar back on again. This is very difficult to do over the camera. There we go. Get that there. And there's no need to remove any of that. It seems to have a good amount of silicone grease in it already, so I'm not going to add any more. And it seems like a good vacuum. I might just add a little bit more to that section before I ink it up. The one thing I did notice about this pen was that in these versions, that little plunger touches the bottom of the section and the feed. And so when you have it all the way shut, it closes off the section from the body. It's sort of called airplane mode for your pen. And so when you want ink to flow, you open this little blind cap up just a little bit and that piston just comes back a touch and allows ink to flow down to the nib and into the feed. Once the feed is charged with ink, you can close that off and it's now functionally separate from the ink reservoir. Whereas this piston filler does not do that. It's difficult to see, but there's a gap there. And this is closed all the way down. And there's a gap there, so that doesn't seal off. So it's something to know. One of the features of vacuum fillers, most vacuum fillers, is that you can close them off, drain the ink out, open them up like this, drain the ink by holding it upright, close the blind cap again, put it in your shirt, and then travel on an aircraft. And you've functionally separated the now fairly devoid of ink nib and feed from the ink reservoir. And so you're not going to get any ink splooshing around because of the changes in air pressure. If you take this pen with you, all bets are off because that's completely open. So, an interesting looking pen. Let's look at the cap for a second. I didn't look at that. It does have some Chinese characters on there, which I assume mean WingSung. And on the back, it is engraved with 3013. And I didn't look at the nib carefully enough. Let's look at that. It looks like a number 5 or smaller. It says WingSung F. It has the WingSung logo. And of course the clear plastic feed. And we'll have to see how that writes. So the next thing is we'll take a look at this pen in terms of its measurements. and dimensions, and then we will look at some size comparisons, and then I'll come back with a writing sample after I've inked it up. Okay, so I'm back with the WingSung 3013. I cleaned it out and filled it with Emerald of Chivor. It's a lovely ink, and I kind of like to see it in a clear demonstrator pen. So let's see how this pen writes. I gave the nib a try once I had inked it up, and it wrote very fine, very scratchy, and very dry. So I did some micro mesh on it. I spread the tines out a little bit, and it's writing a lot better. So the good news is that the nib is serviceable, and the pen fits very nicely in the hand. Now the section is fairly long. Those threads, and there's quite a step there where that little rubber gasket is. You can feel that. That's very sharp. But the section is long enough to be able to hold it down towards the nib so that your thumb doesn't engage those threads so much. And there's no need to undo this blind cap to write, because the ink just flows through this thing anyway. So we have here today the WingSung 3013. This is a fine nib, even though I've got it writing a little bit better than a fine, a little bit thicker. And the ink is Hiroshi, no, it's not Hiroshizuku. It is J. Herbin Emerald of Chivor. And it is writing very wet right now. So let's listen to the nib. So it's very smooth right now. Just going to take that clip off here because my page is bouncing. There's no line variation whatsoever. It's very dry in reverse, but it does write. So it seems to keep up as well. So this is a fairly surprising pen for $5, $6, $5.85, something like that. The one disappointing thing is that it does not post. No way. And so I don't usually post my pens, and the pen is long enough to fit in your hand properly, nicely, without posting. So well, it seems to be a very nice writing experience, and it's coming out fairly wet now. Where's my tool? There's my tool. I used a spark plug gapping tool, 0.004, and pushed it into the breather hole, and scored it a couple of times, and it came out writing this well. And now, you probably can't see it on the video, but because it's coming out so wet, I'm getting a lot of sheen as well as the sparkle in this ink as it's drying. So that ink dries, and you get this beautiful red, almost a, what do you call that, a ruby red sheen on that ink. Yeah, you probably can't see it. Believe me, you can see it. So I'm going to write with this for a couple of days, and then I'm going to come back and do an evaluation of this pen. Okay, we're back again with the WingSung 3013. I've lived with this pen for a few hours now, written with it for a few hours, and, well, an hour maybe. More than a $5 pen probably deserves in terms of due diligence, but there you are. Got to make everybody happy. So, let's do an evaluation. I've pre-written out my writing criteria, my evaluation criteria. Design and build, writing and feel, look and value. Each category is out of 4, and this is my scoring system where 4 is perfect, 3 is above average, 2 is a bare pass, 1 is a failure, and 0 is a complete no-show. This is how I used to grade in college, and so it's natural to me. So, let's do some due diligence here. In terms of design and build, I feel that I have to ding this pen. Again, we're dealing with a $5 pen, so it's hard to be super critical, but there's a couple of things that don't work for me. One is that it just fails to post in any way at all. The second is this very sharp step right there. I don't think it would take too much to round that off. Maybe in the molding process, they round that mold off. I don't know how it's manufactured, but that's very sharp. If you turned that in your thumb, you'd probably cut yourself. It's that sharp. So that's a ding right there. The nib didn't write right out of the box. There is no box out of the plastic sleeve. And I had to work on it quite a bit to get it to write the way it's writing now. And now it's writing fairly nicely. It's writing very wet, and it's writing fairly thick. And I quite like it, but I can't write with it for very long because that is very uncomfortable. And the other thing is that the piston doesn't close off the ink chamber from the section, which is, I thought, the point of a vac filler. If they just made that a little bit longer or that a little bit shorter, I don't know, in the design process, when you close that piston down with this screw at the back, that little rubber stopper would go right up against the section and it would seal it off. It's very strange to me. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 4 for design and build. In terms of writing and feel, it's not too bad to write with now that I've got it writing, but that sharp step, as I say, takes some of the writing experience away, and I wouldn't write with this for any length of time. So that's a 3. In terms of look, I quite like the look. I like the way that they have done this double diamond pattern and repeated it on the blind cap here. It's nice. It looks pretty, and with a really nice ink in there, it looks very sharp. So, so kudos for the look. However, I think that you're already clear everywhere else. The feed is clear. Why put silver on that inside section of the section? I'd be more interested to see the color of the ink through there. So I'm going to ding it for that. Let's say a 3 out of 4 for that. And then in terms of value, I mean, wow, a $5 US vacuum fill. Who'd have thunk? That's a remarkable value, no matter how you look at it. Still, it is a $5 pen, and it's got kind of $5 feel to it. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 4 for that. And so we end up with 11 out of 16. which isn't too bad. I guess that's about 65 to 70%, something like that. It's not bad for a $5 pen. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and touch that little bell if you want to get notified when another video appears. I thank you for watching, and thank you for your patronage. And thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote. Together we stand, divided.